They fined me for a garden gnome, threatened me over Christmas lights. 2 months later, I owned the entire neighborhood, and the woman who ruled it like a dictator had no idea she'd just been dethroned. I never thought suburban life would feel like a battlefield. After years of grinding in Silicon Valley, I'd finally cashed out, sold my startup burned out, and dreamed of quiet mornings, coffee on the porch, maybe a barbecue on weekends. I bought a place in Cedar Ridge Enclave, a postcard-perfect suburb where every lawn looked copy-pasted. It was supposed to be peace. Instead, I stepped into a regime run by one woman with a clipboard and a God complex. Her name was Beatrice Cranston, but everyone called her HOA Karen. Blonde curls lacquered into submission, lips always pursed like she was tasting vinegar. She was the self-appointed guardian of neighborhood standards, and the first thing she attacked was my lawn gnome, a little red-headed guy named Ralph. "It's not just a garden gnome, Mr. Carter," she told me, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "It's a violation." I laughed at first, thought she was kidding. She wasn't. A day later came another notice. My mailbox was the wrong shade of green. Then my grass was too tall. Then my basketball hoop hadn't been stored properly. Each fine got bigger, each letter colder. I tried to play along. Trimmed the lawn, repainted the mailbox, hid poor Ralph behind the house like he'd committed a crime. But with Beatrice, compliance wasn't peace, it was surrender. She wasn't protecting the neighborhood. She was policing it. I'd see her marching down the street with that clipboard measuring tape in one hand, phone camera in the other. Once I caught her taking pictures of my car parked in my own driveway. "What exactly are you doing?" I asked. "Documenting another violation," she said flatly. "Vehicles may not remain in driveways for more than 24 hours. I stared at her. "It's my driveway." Her smile was thin. "Not when you live under HOA jurisdiction. The rules apply to everyone." Something in her tone, so smug, so certain, lit a fuse in me. I'd faced venture capital sharks, corporate takeovers, NDAs that could crush a man, but never someone so petty, so obsessed with control. Still, for a while, I kept my head down. Attended her endless HOA meetings where she sat at the head of the table like a queen, lecturing about uniformity and property values. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. But one night, after she humiliated me publicly over a single string of Christmas lights, something snapped. I remember sitting in my dark living room, the violation letter crumpled in my fist, thinking maybe I made a mistake moving here. Maybe peace wasn't meant for me. Then, somewhere between exhaustion and anger, I started reading the HOA bylaws, just to understand what I was up against. I found phrases that made no sense, references to declarant authority and developer rights. So I went deeper: county records, public filings, development contracts. And that's when I found it. The HOA wasn't the ultimate power here. The real power still belonged to the original developer, a company called Ridgefield Development LLC. Buried in fine print was something called special declarant rights. Basically, Ridgefield still had the authority to amend or even dissolve the HOA. And if I could buy that company, I could own those rights. That thought hit me like caffeine and fire. Beatrice wanted to rule by rules, fine. I'd change the rule book. I called my old startup lawyer, Nora Patel, a woman whose idea of small talk was quoting case law. She listened, then laughed softly. "If what you found is real, Liam, you're sitting on a nuke." She explained 2 paths: I could fight the HOA through endless litigation or take the audacious route, acquire Ridgefield itself and inherit its authority. I chose audacious. Then came Diego Morales, my old CFO. He didn't even blink when I told him the plan. "We're buying the developer," he said. "Hell, why not? Beats arguing about mailbox colors." We built a stealth operation: legal reviews, title searches, due diligence. I learned more about environmental indemnities and zoning easements than any sane person should. Ridgefield turned out to be a small regional developer, half forgotten after the housing crash. They were looking to unload old assets. We offered them an escape fast and clean. For weeks, I played the perfect neighbor. I waved to Beatrice, paid every ridiculous fine, even thanked her once for keeping the community beautiful. Meanwhile, Nora drafted contracts. Diego built spreadsheets, and I moved closer to the moment I'd pull the rug out from under the Queen of Cedar Ridge. The day the escrow closed, I remember holding the signed documents in my hand, stamped by the county clerk. Ridgefield Development, LLC now belonged to me, which meant so did the HOA. I didn't celebrate. I just sat on my porch, looked at the manicured street, and whispered, "Game on." But power unused is just paper. Timing mattered. I waited patient while Beatrice grew bolder, sending new rules about holiday decoration, pre-approval, and driveway symmetry. It was almost poetic how perfectly she set the stage. The annual spring HOA gathering was coming up, a mandatory circus she adored. The night before it, she showed up at my door waving another notice. "Mr. Carter, your inflatable hot tub violates the visual harmony of our community. This is a $500 fine." I signed the slip, smiled. "Thank you, Beatrice." She walked away, heels clicking, unaware she'd just delivered my opening act. The next evening, the community center was packed. Residents sat in folding chairs, clutching coffee cups, faces blank with resignation. Beatrice stood at the podium, glowing under the fluorescent lights. She clicked through her PowerPoint, boasting about compliance achievements. Then she reached the slide showing a photo of my backyard hot tub. "Certain residents," she said, voice dripping with superiority, "believe the rules don't apply to them." That was my cue. I stood up calm. "Actually, Beatrice, there's been a development everyone here deserves to know about." The room went still. She frowned. "Mr. Carter, this is not the time." "It is," I said. "Because as of last week, Cedar Ridge Enclave has a new owner. Ridgefield Development, LLC, sold its rights. To me." Murmurs spread like wildfire. Beatrice froze. "You can't." I opened my binder, held up the stamped deed. "I can." And I did. "Special declarant rights, look it up." For the first time, her voice faltered. Paper slipped from her clipboard. A neighbor in the front row. Mr. Henderson took the document, adjusted his glasses, and nodded. "It's real," he said. The room erupted. Applause, cheers, laughter that had been bottled up for years. Beatrice stood there, pale, trembling, her empire collapsing one clap at a time. I didn't gloat. I just laid it out, all fines forgiven. Absurd rules abolished. HOA authority restructured into a community association. No more mailbox inspections. No more gnome bans. And then silence. "The kind that hums after a storm," Beatrice whispered. "I'll sue you." I smiled. "You're welcome to try." She did. Of course she did. Filed lawsuits, spread rumors, stuffed mailboxes with flyers warning the neighborhood would collapse under my dictatorship. For a moment, doubt crept in. Maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe I was becoming the tyrant I'd fought. One night I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by paperwork, feeling the old startup exhaustion sink in again. "What if she's right?" I muttered. "What if this all blows up?" Then my phone buzzed. Erica, the single mom from down the street, texting a photo. Her daughter's lemonade stand open again for the first time since Beatrice banned it. Caption: "Thanks for giving us back our Saturdays." That was enough. I wasn't the villain. I was fixing what she'd broken. When her lawsuit hit court, Nora shredded it line by line. The judge denied her injunction, calling her claims unsupported and speculative. Her face that day pure disbelief. But even that didn't stop her. She held secret driveway meetings, tried to rally loyalists, whispered about saving property values. So I did the opposite of hiding. I threw a block party. Grills, fired up kids on bikes, lights strung between trees. I stood there holding a plate of ribs, watching laughter ripple through the crowd, and thought, this is what freedom looks like. Her final play came weeks later. She filed a petition demanding a court-appointed receiver to seize control of our finances, a desperate move. If granted, it would undo everything. The hearing was packed. Neighbors filled every seat. Beatrice sat in front, eyes sharp, her lawyer whispering like a vulture. Nora stood and laid out our defense, transparent budgets, rising home values, community support. Diego submitted spreadsheets proving we'd cut costs, boosted participation, doubled property worth. When the judge finally spoke, his words echoed like a verdict from heaven. Petition denied. The room exploded. Cheers, tears, even the bailiff grinned. Beatrice grabbed her clipboard and stormed out, heels clattering like gunfire. That's where I'll end it, right there. Because that was the moment she lost everything she'd built on fear. I didn't need to celebrate. I didn't need revenge. Watching her walk out of that courtroom was enough. Sometimes peace isn't handed to you. It's something you fight for clause by clause until tyranny finally folds under its own arrogance.